Hello everyone, welcome to our class. To begin, we will do a word and activity. This activity consists of seeing the images and answering the questions. The objective of this activity is that the student discover what the topic of the class will be. The teaching objective is to find out what the students think about the topic and to see their previous knowledge.
Okay, thank you very much. Let's kind of begin with this. So that was pretty much for the warm up. And now for our topic for today is teaching English to adults. We'll know that adults and children are very different, and that's not a, let's say, that's not an exception when teaching English. So what are the main difference about teaching English to adults, students, than teaching English to children, right? So as you may know, or as you may notice, unlike carefree children, adults may be feeling quite stressed as they first, let's say, um, introduce themselves into your classroom, right? So as a teacher, what you need to do is to be aware that there could be all sort of things in their lives that can make these lessons extra stressful, and that's something you don't want from them. So adults have more varying levels, needs, and difficulties when it comes to learning a new language. Around puberty, the natural ability to pick up a second language drops down and continues to do so as we get older. Adults also have very specific but diverse reasons for learning English. They might be preparing for university abroad, trying to gain a new skill for their career at home, or planning on immigrating to an English speaking country. ESL teachers will often teach in private language schools, and you may have a mix of reasons for studying English within the same class. The role of the teacher will become more strategic than teaching to kids, and you'll need to closely monitor your students' progress to help them reach their specific goals. Oh, sorry. Okay. So sometimes kids like to these kind of very active activities and, let's say, surprises and all that kind of stuff, while adults may not like it at all. First of all, they are, let's not say afraid, but they just don't like of seeing undignified, sorry, being made to look silly in front of others. Let's say they don't like to try and fail once and once again, and that people see is that, and they may think they're like a failure. So that's kind of the thing that happens with adults that may not happen with children, right?
Okay, can you see me?
Yes, sure.
Well, there are some advantages to teaching adults, and these are that You will spend less time on discipline and class management, and you will have more time on learning because adults are serious and focused people, so you don't need to waste time disciplining them. Another advantage is that adult students come from various professions, industries, and educational backgrounds, providing interesting topics for class discussions. This will help a lot so your class will not be boring. And another is that sometimes it's possible that for English foreign language teachers to be friends students, allowing more opportunities for cross-cultural or language exchange. But now, there is a question. How to teach English to adults? When organizing your lesson plans for adults, always keep practically at the forefront. Ask yourself, will your student be able to use their new vocabulary on regular basis? Or what will they be able to take away from your lesson? Since they are the growing ups in their respective household, never forget that they are taking time from their busy schedule to study, and they are likely paying for lessons by themselves. This often means that they want to extract as much value from their lessons as possible. Well, for the previously given reasons more, adults can be very different English students than children. It seems a bit contradictory since most adult learners have big goals and a desire to succeed, but they are actually often more reserved and trying new words or being bold in the classroom. The desire for success often leads to the fear of failure. These are some tips to get your adult students speaking and participating like free in uninhibited children. Well, the first tip is connect with them. Make real connection with your students. Spend a short period in every class to get to know them personally. Personally, are they married? Do they have children? What are their hobbies? Also, share your own experience and relate to your students in any way possible. Another tip is make them feel comfortable. When students feel safe to speak and make mistakes, they they will speak more often and more honestly. Reward participation with positive reinforcement, no matter if errors were made. Another is avoid childish books. Your adult students probably won't find cartoons or and other children's books relevant to their lives or learning English. So you need to find appropriate ESL learning materials. Another is learn the language too and give every student a chance to speak. One of the most challenging aspects of learning English for adults is becoming comfortable with speaking the new language. So take time to let every student practice answer a question, even if they are just repeating one after the other. The more they speak, the more comfortable they will become. Now, we are going to analyze 5 points to consider when teaching English to adults. Well, some questions we can ask ourselves when teaching adults are: what skills do they need? How their motivation different from of the other age group? And how can they become successful learners? For us, teachers, it is important to make note of these implications on our daily classroom practice. This is why it is important to consider the following points. The first one is adults have a specific purpose, so don't waste time. They don't want to waste time, and you as a teacher should not waste time either. So some adults take language courses because of an external requirement, while others have their internal drive, or at least a specific goal to attain, such as a language exam, which very often translates into a practical benefit. Regardless of the reason, all of them will raise the question, why am I here? And they might go on, what else could it get done instead? It is time well spent. All lessons must have a clear outcome, perhaps even a practical takeaway. Takeaway. We cannot get away with do the exercise on the page and finish them at home. This is the second the second point. It is good practice to spell the benefits out the benefits out at the end of the lesson are related to their individual learning objectives. So learning is more conscious, so they can reflect on their purpose. That is why it is important that you involve them. Adults are more aware of what works for them, what they find difficult, or where they need more support. It is crucial and in turn very helpful to build on this capacity. Devote some time to reflect on individual learning strategies and self-evaluation. This will help them build and maintain a sense of responsibility for the learning and achieving their goals. After all, we are talking about adults. Aren't they the ones in charge of their own progress? So it is important to keep this point in mind. The third one is that motivation is diverse. So variation and flexibility is really necessary. It can be difficult motivating adults with all sorts of concerns on their minds. This might include fetching the kids, submit a report, or a shopping list, you name it. Add to that the underlying question of, of benefits purpose, and you will realize why motivation is a complex issue. Be prepared for a variety of negative attitude leading to reluctance from the learner. The best way to fight it is to be flexible and ready with different approaches, varied content, or alternative paths to lead to the same goal, providing a context for meaningful learning. The fourth one is a need for immediate benefit useful language. Think of something you had to or still have to learn as an adult. Maybe driving a car, finding out how to send a contact card from your or from your latest smartphone, or even you yourself might be a learner of another foreign language. You rather have time to look at all the wonders a new smartphone or a language for that matter as to offer. You want to find a solution to a particular problem at hand. And right now, the underlying question is, how can I get this thing to work? We have no time to deal with language just for the sake of it. Our learners usually need to accomplish a particular task or at least see a tangible benefit for the future. Adults want to park the car, send the contact card, or use that piece of language for a practical reason. And the last one is abstract thinking enables seeing language as a system. Grammar is fine. Well, again, we can draw upon a different abilities of adult learners here. Their need for useful language doesn't contradict the capacity of treat language as an abstract system. On the contrary, abstract thinking is in fact generalizing, so there is no harm in presenting underlying rules. We have been warned against using grammar tables, linguistic terms, other abstraction in language teaching. They are obviously unproductive if used for sake of it, or when relied on the scaffold of lesson plan. But don't hesitate to make use of them if they can help to adults learn, understand now how system works. Now my partner Ruth is going to explain another tips.
Okay. The tips to teach English to adults, especially in the beginners, is the for one is the kid sample. This is the one of the most important steps to teach English to beginners. Many new teachers make the mistake of using too much English when giving the students instructions, praise, or other of the feedback. For instance, in saying is the in I is ill, beginners lessons may is the you sound like the you're from Mars. In the instead some things like this of the time you're the any the something this bus is it is the culturally is the appropriate in the country you're teaching. The other tips is the always check for understanding. A rookie mistake many persons teaching English to complete beginners make is the assuming that the students has the understood the lessons or classroom instructions. In your first lessons for beginners, adults, or kids, is the students may not be is the accustomed of the Western way of the schooling where students in the instead they may be feel of the embarrassed to admit ignorance in front of the class and prefer to remain silent. When teaching beginners English, you need to read your students. Body languages to gauge whether they've understood and keep checking whether they understood by asking. The other tip is the show don't tell. In this test is the one of the steps to teach English to beginners is to show, not tell. In the classroom, students will better understand what you're trying to say if you use visual cues rather than spill a lot of words in the direction. What does this mean exactly? Is the instead of saying less, learn them persistence, practice how to teach basic English by giving clear examples of the target languages structure with the simple drawings, pictures, shorts, skits, and exaggerated histories. The fourth tip is the always use positives as the reinforcement. This tip is here's another one of the tips to teach English to beginners. If someone gives an incorrect answer, don't tell you're wrong. Never embarrass a student in front of the entire classroom. You'll scar him or her for life, and her or she will hate English forever because of you. They instead try to create a friendly atmosphere in the classroom by praising the students, even when they made us your mistake. The five tip is the don't be boring. In English teaching for beginners doesn't have to feel like pulling teeth. Instead, use love of game to encourage your students to practice and produce the languages you've taught. Also, incorporate your students' interests that they want to learn. For instance, the students don't use the Garfield is they love or for example Hello Kitty. Also nothing more dull than making students dream from the textbooks and feeling laying the words and lot zero images. The sky is the limit is the regarding how to teach basic English or the trawl the interwebs for our some ideas that will keep your students engaged the throughout of the lesson.
Okay, thank you very much, Ruth. Now, as you may notice, well, uh, although the students will often be mostly professionals interested in boosting their language skills for the workplace, or, well, it is also possible to have students from all walks of life, including college students, homemakers, or retirees, whatever. But it doesn't mean that this professionality doesn't mean that they shouldn't have fun as well. So it means sorry, it means just you don't want to scare them with too many spontaneous activities, or by putting them in the hot seat, for example, answering questions in front of the entire class. Instead, you could use some let's say interesting and pretty mature activities for them. This is what I call what is called sample targeted activities, right? So the first one of them is a bingo. This activity is pretty good because it can help with language skills such listening and even including reading if you can use your students to be the caller for the bingo, right? So this activity, the students will listen carefully and mark words or expressions on their bingo cards. Playing this game can also allow them to practice this speaking, right? If you give them turns at calling and they're reading as they recognize the words on the cards. Now, for you to make this, you have to choose the words or expressions that you want them to learn or practice. The standard bingo card has 25 space, but you can have a smaller one with like 16 or 9 for less advanced students or less time commitment. So each player's card has the same words but arranged differently. Or you can have more than 25 items so that each card is missing different ones. So the bingo caller can be the teacher, or a student can have color cards with each of the words to call from randomly. Or you can have color cards with clues to the words and expressions that are on the bingo cards. This means students will have to do one more step of critical thinking to figure out which space to mark for sure just if it's appropriate for the student's level, right? When someone gets 5 markers in a row in any direction, horizontal, vertical, or diagonal, they call out bingo. They're celebrated as the winner, and then everyone removes their markers and the game starts again. The winner could be the new color, so players could swap cards to keep the experience fresh. I think every student will be engaged, not just spectating, so that everyone can learn and everyone can have kind of fun, right? So anyone can win, yes. They're motivated and they're unafraid of failing when we're talking about adults, right? Winners don't really need to win a prize, but just winning is enough. But if you're concerned into it, maybe the game could be kind of a competition between the classmates, and that could make something it can rise also the partners, let's say the co-team participation, right? So the next activity is directed drawing. This can be done with one person at the board receiving instructions called out by a class member. One can stick a picture to be described on the back of a chair near the front of so all class members can see it. Alternatively, this activity can be done in pairs. The speakers has to describe a simple picture for the listener to draw. They need to remember to be specific about size and positioning of the items in the drawing. They just can say like draw a face, right? They should do something more like terms specific, specific vocabulary items such an oval, a circle, right? It is not a competition, but it can be that it's situable for your students. But it's more like an opportunity to cooperate together to produce a picture. Everyone will be engaged as they think of words to help describe exactly what to draw or how to create the drawing. Nextly, we have surveys. Asking questions and giving answers provide us a basis for many of our conversations, but correctly phrasing questions can be tricky in English. Especially when you add various degrees of politeness and direct questioning, such as, I wonder if I could ask you about, etc. Prepare questions or help your students to create questions around a particular topic, using vocabulary that you may be focusing on at the time. For example, food, transport, reading books, hobbies, etc. To start with, each student could have 3 related questions. It is not necessary for every student to have completely different questions, but some variety will help to keep it interesting for everyone. Tell your students to survey a number of other students, maybe 6 or 10. and depending on your class size, obviously, and keep a record of their answers. They can also answer questions for each fellow students that they survey. This is easier to do if the questions are carefully worded to limit the number of possible answers. Then they can collate what they have found and prepare a short talk for the class about their results. You can help your students prepare some questions to ask you, and you could also ask them questions more in the nature of an interview rather than a survey. This one it's a pretty cool one. At least that's what I think. It's a dictionary scramble. If you have, let's say, well, you should have a lot of dictionaries to play this one. See who can find and read out a definition for a particular word. Students can select a word and set it as a task for everyone else to find and read. This is very good to practice reading and correctly pronouncing difficult words using the help provided in the dictionary. You could start by reading together, I don't know, silently, through an interesting but maybe slightly difficult article and choose some words to look up in the dictionary. It can also be done with, let's say, a book or something that is related to the class, right? And lastly, we have the reality hour. First of all, you have to know your students. You have to know what they like, what they want to learn, what kind of writing will they be using most often at work or at daily life. Afterwards, you have to assign them a writing hour in class that lets them practice that type of writing. For example, we have like job applications, like the ones that are authentic job openings on the internet, or I don't know, cover letters or CVs. We also have news articles. Well, this is a great practice for describing an event that has occurred or an imaginary event. Students can be required to bring in a news article that is relevant to their lives or make up a news story that matches their own interests. Then they'll need to write their own articles, try making a class newspaper. That would be cool. Also, class blogs or emails is very good for encouraging your students to write like frequently, right? And also it can be good for, let's say, to check the politeness of the writing, etc. To keep everyone engaged with the writing, display printed efforts on the classroom walls or make a series of books that they can flip through to see what each other wrote in the interest of getting them to encourage each other and also see what the other students' opinion, right? As a teacher, look for, sorry, always look for positive outcomes to take note of and encourage individuals about rather than getting out the red pen to mark the mistakes.
Well, thank you, Mateo, for explaining those interesting activities. For sure, it will make our class very funny and cool. Now, it's time to do our practice activity. The activity consists of relating or connecting the question on the left with the respective answer on the right. On the right, each question has only one answer, so the students must find it and join it to the question according to what my colleagues and me have been explaining. Now my partner Mateo is going to show the activity. The learning objective is that the students are able to find the correct answer to the question asked about the topic of teaching English to adults. And the teaching objective is to corroborate that the topic addressed is clear once the students manage to carry out the activity correctly. So, well, that is the activity. Um, in some seconds, we will show, well, the result. Finally, this is the result that of the practice activity. Now, we can pass to the last activity, that is the wrap up.
Yeah, thank you very much. Okay, lastly, give me a second. Sorry. Okay, can you see me now? Yes. Okay. Okay, so this activity is done in Mentimeter, which is a platform for making interactive presentations. So mostly the idea was to make the students enter to the link that is going to be provided, and so they can answer the questions that we're making, so that everyone can see it, everyone can share the answers, their opinions. We could form or construct the, let's say, kind of a recalling of the class, and so that it can be easier for everyone to remember, right? So here we can see what was well the question, and after some students have entered, we could see some kind of answers and etc. This is done with 3 questions, and it's kind of more of a reflective way. Um, the teaching objective of this activity is to recall clue points of the topic while at the same time creating a critical thinking situation, making them meditate about the topic. As for the learning objective, is that the students can share and acknowledge the opinion of the rest of the class to construct a more varied and significant knowledge. And so that's pretty much it, right? We had, oh, sorry. Okay, here we have some more questions, even answers. The last one. Lastly, we also prepared. Sorry, give me a second. Sarai, do we share the folder, the activity, the resources file?
Yes, yes. Share the resources file and also explain the extension activity.
Okay, thank you. Well, give me a second to. Mm-hmm. Well, as for the extension activity, we prepared a low stakes quiz, um, which is kind of a pretty simple quiz. But the main idea of this quiz is to see if the students got the ideas of the class, to see if, well, to analyze if they recall mostly of what we taught them. Talked. I don't know why this isn't happening. Um, over here.
So, well,
Okay.
here is our own resources file. Um, there are the online resources, the two websites where the student can find extra information. Also, two YouTube videos. And finally, our extension activity that my partner is going to show.
Okay, seems like this is like I'm made for this. Is I had it answered, I don't know. But at least for seeing the questions and the answers, here are them. But again, obviously, the idea is that the students can remember the class and see what their knowledge with the and share the main idea and the opinions of the students about the class. And I think that's pretty much it for today's class. I know that teaching English it's never easy, and nor to children nor to adults. So we always have to make a really great effort. And but for sure, the most important thing is always be prepared. Adults would always be questioning what you're doing, or if what you're teaching them to them it's useful or not. So keep in mind that try to always be prepared for everything. And I think that's pretty much it. Thank you very much for listening, and we'll see you in the next one.
Yes, we hope that you enjoy our class. Bye.